So we're trying to derive our firm's profit maximizing rule. And to do so, it might be helpful to review just a couple accounting identities that we know. One is that total revenue is equal to price times quantity. And the other is that total profit, and I'm going to use the Greek symbol pi for profit. Profit is equal to total revenue minus total cost. So we want to derive a firm's profit maximizing rule knowing that total revenue is price times quantity and profit is total revenue minus total cost. So here we have a grid showing our revenue and cost for our newspaper business, the ECON 101 Post. The price of a newspaper in this exorbitant market is $10 for a newspaper. We have a very high quality newspaper here in Econ 101. And from our revenues and costs, we're able to calculate profit, we're able to calculate marginal revenue, we're able to calculate marginal cost, and we're able to calculate the change in profit, how much our profit is going up or down with each additional newspaper we print. So first, let's look at that total revenue slide. And again, revenue is just price times quantity. So if a newspaper is $10, we're not earning any revenue when we sell none. When we produce 1 through 10, revenue goes up by $10 each time. So for one newspaper, we'd earn a revenue of $10. For 10 newspapers, we'd earn a revenue of $100. And since we have total costs, we can also calculate profit. Remember, total costs is just variable costs plus fixed costs. So even when we're not producing anything, we're still paying that fixed cost, and as a result, we are operating at a loss. In fact, we continue operating at a loss for the first 5 newspapers. We're only earning $10 a newspaper, and our variable costs are going up. So for those first 5 newspapers, we are operating at a loss. Quickly note that there's a typo here, and this should just say minus 24. So take a minute to ask yourself where this firm is maximizing profit. Where is the Econ 101 Post making the most profit? The answer is either at 7 newspapers or 8 newspapers. At both of those, the profit is 10. On either side of it, the profit is less than 10. Now, firms can't use this approach. They can't always put these costs and revenues into a table because they only learn about this after the fact, which is why we as economists need to develop a profit maximizing rule. And that's what we're going to do in this part of the lecture. Remember, as economists, it's our job to think at the margin. Our optimal condition is often setting marginal something equal to marginal something else. And the margins we have in this circumstance are marginal revenue and marginal cost. To put some definitions on, how do we get marginal revenue? We take the change in total revenue, and we divide it by the change in quantity. Oftentimes, the change in quantity is going to be 1, and in those circumstances, we can just look at the change in total revenue. For instance, on that last table, when we went from no newspapers where we weren't earning any revenue to one newspaper where we were earning $10 of revenue, that change in total revenue, that marginal revenue, was $10. And in fact, because the price was always $10, our marginal revenue was always $10 throughout that table. Marginal cost, same formula, change in total cost. Remember that Greek symbol delta means change. Change in total cost over change in quantity. And oftentimes, if that change in quantity is 1, then we can just look at the change in total cost. So how do we get marginal profit? Well, if profit is just total revenue minus total cost, marginal profit is just marginal revenue minus marginal cost. It's the change in that profit from one unit of output to the next. And from there, we can derive our profit maximizing rule, where profit is maximized by choosing the level of output such that marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. Now, in some situations, and in the situation that we saw on our Econ 101 post, we had an example where we could maximize profit where this rule doesn't hold. So it might be useful to say keep producing until marginal revenue is less than marginal cost. Let's go back to that original table of Econ 101 posts, revenues and costs and profit, and see if we can come up with our profit maximizing rule from the table. So here we have our marginal revenue. And note that marginal revenue is always just the price. What's the additional revenue we get from selling one more newspaper? The price of that newspaper. So it's always going to be $10 moving down the table. We also get the marginal cost. And notice how the change in total cost is not the same each time, because our cost curves are always following that margin. So at some point we have gains to productivity, marginal product is going up, that means marginal cost will go down. But at some point our marginal cost starts to increase again. And our average cost will go up from there. Now, using this table and using the rule we derived already, can we calculate where the firm maximizes total profits? Well, last time we said it would be either at 7 or 8 units. But now that we have this table, we can say at 8 units where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. Put it differently, if marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, then our change in profit, marginal revenue minus marginal cost, is going to be 0, where we maximize profit.